All right, bam, we're live. Here we go, 440 crew. We are here on week, I believe it's 5 of the 440 challenge. We are on our last town hall with my man, Joe Jardine. Joe, I won't do you justice on the intro, but he's worked with tons of high level athletes, executives, the ones you'd recognize. You always say one name rhymes with Darren Rogers. I forget how you say it. Some high level people. Super good dude. He comes, does monthly man performance coaching calls, and I thought he fit super well in today to help us transition building our habits into making them stick. And really, I'm sure tons of other nuggets and wisdom bombs with his mindset arsenal.
Well, Jake, let's get going, bud. Let's just jump into it. Why not, right?
Let's do it.
Let me know if you can't see the PowerPoint. So if you're watching this, feel free to take notes. If you have any questions, save to the end if you can, because I might answer it. And so, but let's go start. We're going to talk about today's thing called the consistency code, kind of how to become great through really small habits, and really talking about this concept of habits, cluster of habits as a routine, and so just kind of some reasons why behind habits, how do we maintain them, keep them. So we're gonna go a little bit here and there and everywhere, but all around the aspect of research around habits and how important it is for our performance. A little background on who I am. Here's my fam band, by the way. I thought this year, for all times I speak, I'll give a little picture of the fam. There we are. This is our Christmas card. You can tell we're mean, just absolutely mean pickleball players. Can you not tell? The sassiness of the kids came from their father, and there they are, and there's my wife who ages like fine wine, and I age like beef jerky, which is just fine. But a little background on who I am. I'm all things psychology is my background. So my background is clinical psychology. That's what I went to school for. My license of all things is as a marriage family therapist. And then I did about 10, 11 years as a sports psychology professor down in Southern California. And then I call myself a performance mindset coach, which is really the concept in which in sports psychology, a lot of people see a sports psychologist when there's something broken in them. And then performance psychology is more the aspect if you see a performance coach is because you're trying to go from good to great, great to excellent to elite. And so there's the background. And so I work with anyone from 10-year-old Olympic hopefuls to, D1 athletes and professional athletes as well. Every time I talk, we have this slide that we was talking about. Just a reminder, what is mindset? Mindset is actually a science. It's not just science made up. It's not just a coaching aspect or coaching word. It's a psychology. It's actually developed in Stanford. Mindset is clinical meets performance psychology. And so you have the clinical background in terms of mindset, which just has to do with how we feel. And performance has to do with where we're going and where we want to go. And so how those intersect is really called our mindset. Next year's mental toughness comes from emotional wellness. It is impossible for us to become mentally tough unless we're emotionally well. If you feel stressed, anxious, depressed, relational discord, having problems in relationships or at work, it is really hard to just grit it and say, I got to be mentally tough if we're emotionally unwell, or even feeling burnout when it comes to just anything in life. Next year is the body is overworked and the mind is underdeveloped in all athletes, in all sports. Doesn't matter if you're a golfer or football player. And so that's why we do this, is that we spend some time in developing our minds. And so that's to do with, of course, mindset work, also has to do with the concept of just lifestyle in general. So a lot of stuff that we talk about today, yes, it could easily be given to athletes, but also you can use the skills anywhere in life, from academics to relationships to career, whatever it may be. And lastly, here is Angela Duckworth, the doctor around the book Grit. If you read the book Grit, she did all the research in West Point regarding how people get gritty in life. And her famous quote is, progress requires unlearning. So we always see things through this lens of what needs to be unlearned, past narratives, failures. It could be upbringing. It could be attachment styles, whatever it may be. What needs to be unlearned for us to have progress in life? And sometimes that's a good way to even start out every year. This is a new year. And so we're going to talk about that here in a second. And no better than a fresh start to kind of say, okay, what needs to be unlearned from last year for the be progress this year as an athlete. I always start with some quotes. Here we are. We have Dr. Timothy Keller, the great Timothy Keller. He said, wisdom is having confidence in the decisions you make in life. And I love this quote by him. I think we all like to be wise and be considered to be wise people and wise athletes. And his definition of wisdom is having confidence in decisions you make in life. I mean, like if you're making decisions and you feel maybe anxious or uncertainty or confused, maybe we need to take a step back and say, I need to gain more wisdom for I have confidence in that decision. Like, let's not ignore these emotions and let's make sure we get wisdom around it. It could be the fact is, as an athlete, that certain decisions you're making as an athlete, and we're from, let's say, has to do from whatever programming to diet, where it may be. If there's some unwanted emotions around that, gain some more wisdom around it to then feel confident about what you're doing, what you're pursuing. Dr. Carl Jung, good old Freud's nemesis, says, what? I am not what happened to me. I am what I choose to become. Meaning, transformation doesn't happen from our circumstances. Transformation occurs from choices. And so if we're waiting for the right timing and the right place and the right person, the right blah, 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 Carl, you're going to be like, you're going to wait forever, man. So start making the right choices. And so you think in terms of habits. Habits are about choices, micro choices. And we're going to talk about this concept of micro choices. But routines are a cluster of habits, cluster of these choices. And so it's important. That's where transformation occurs. Hey, we're 4 weeks into the new year, guys. And so a lot of what I think today's talk about is perfect timing of the new year. A lot of people say new year, new me, or same me, new systems. And that's probably the proper way to say it. And so for this year, if we don't want to repeat last year, if we don't want to make certain mistakes or certain behaviors, or we want to, let's say, many ways, capitalize and channel from last year's successes, what new systems are we going to create or implement when it comes to making that happen? And so when people say new year, new me, my thought goes to is what systems do you do to create that? I'm going to say right now, our 2026 mantra as athletes this year is I'm going to just take over my mantra. I just feel this is a good mantra to have, which is let's make it a gap year. And not a gap year in terms of, I think when it comes to like, gap years, when it comes to like, let's say redshirt freshmen or people who kind of don't go to school right away from high school to college. But in this case is the Old Testament talks about God's looking for what he calls gap men. Men are going to fill in the gap and bridge things between the tribes in the Old Testament. And this case is when I talk about gap year, I just think that this year there's going to be goals that we're achieving where it might not make sense on paper. Maybe at times it doesn't make sense financially. Maybe the fact is that I don't know how we're going to get here. There's a gap between where I'm at and where I want to get to, and doesn't make sense. That's when we fill the gap up with God. And that's when we look at the scriptures and we look at the concept of just our faith. And so as an athlete this year, there's going to be a time, and maybe you're in right now, it's like, this doesn't make sense. I don't know why I'm injured. This is happening. I have this issue. All right, God, this is the year of me recognizing the gaps are going to be filled in with you, not with works, but worship. And I'm going to allow you to fill it. So a gap year isn't a lazy year. A gap year is really an integrated year. It's a year in which that we're going to integrate Christ and God into a lot of things that we're just not sure about, doesn't make sense. Well, what's our theme for this year? Here's our theme. We're going to shift from doing to becoming and ultimately integrating. And so in the 1960s, with Carl Rogers' humanistic approach towards psychology, he says a healthy adult is one that goes from doing, busy behavior, being driven by behavior, forcing, just do it, white knuckle it, goes from doing to then becoming, which is like driven by your identity, your values, know your 10 commandments of life, figure out what your core values are. You haven't done that, do that again. And so you go from doing to becoming. So now my actions come in place of value. That's why we talk a lot about the why as an athlete. And then from there, we go from becoming to integrating, meaning with my overflow of blessings, who do I want to now bless in my life? Who's coming with me? Who do I want to bring with me? And so That's where the leadership aspect of our life comes in. That's where the influence comes in, because we got to be a good steward of blessings. We got to be a good steward of our identity for other people. And so that's the theme we want to work out, go from doing to becoming to ultimately integrating. And here's my 2026 reminder. And for taking notes, please write this one down. Elite performance in athletes. So this is Performance Psychology 101. Allows flows from alignment, not effort. So a performance as an athlete comes from a place of alignment. The flow comes from alignment, from our values, not from effort. And it's a lot of times athletes have this concept where we just want to try hard, try hard, try hard, try harder. And before we go from a place of effort, none of my athletes usually really lack effort. When they come to see me, we're lacking understanding of our values, where effort flows from. And so elite performance comes from this flow and alignment of our values, not our effort. And so this is being a common theme even we're going to talk about today when it comes to it. So 4 ways my values play out as an athlete. Here they are: discipline, presence, growth, and faith. Once again, taking notes, I think this is value here. So if you know your core values, understand like the 10 commandments of your life, well, here it is. Discipline. I train when the motivation is low. If I have my motivation is low, things are getting hard, my value is going to be the aspect of my kind of place of value. I'm going to be disciplined to do it. My presence, I'm going to counter with margin. Too many of us have busy calendars. Busy's been known to stand for being under Satan's yoke. So we're going to create margin in our life to be available for other people, available for God to use us. And so my presence is going to be known at home, in the gym, whatever that may be. The third one, my values play out as an athlete when it comes to my growth. I don't just reflect yearly. We talk about reflecting daily with you guys. The concept of doing our daily reset, doing our journaling every day, and allow yourself to have these micro check-ins for there to be growth. And lastly is my values as an athlete plays out in our faith, meaning I start my day grounded in God's word, not rushed. By the way, Stanford did famed research about Christianity and one's faith, and it said the two things they found out that is necessary to a Christian's faith for growth is, number one, reading the scriptures, and number two, prayer. And so if we start out just even 1% of a day, 14 minutes a day on reading the scriptures and in prayer, it's going to help just lower our central nervous system, tell the amygdala in our brain, we got this because God has us. And Lord, we're available to you. Just starting our day that way, not rush, this can be tremendous when it comes to lowering our cortisol. We all know for athletes, the issue comes in is when our stress levels are too high, and then the cerebellum, or all of our muscle memories, that gets distorted. So all that training starts getting depleted and broken up. So everything that we're doing is all about lowering our stress, our anxieties. I put down here, values that aren't practiced become guilt, and values that are practiced becomes confidence. My belief system and what I believe in. If I don't practice them out, if my behaviors and my beliefs are incongruent, insert guilt. So I'm someone walks around with guilt, feel guilty. The emotion is there. Ask myself, where in my life are my values not being practiced? Now, the opposite side of it is my beliefs dictate my behaviors and they're congruent. It becomes confidence. So if I'm lacking confidence in my life as an athlete, is what's my values around me as an athlete, and are my behaviors reflecting it? If not, there's an issue going on there. All right, guys, that's a long intro about this year, but I want to get us understanding. That's it. Let's talk about habits now. Here we go. Habits. Consistency comes from what? Focusing on the breadcrumbs, not the loaves of life. So you have bread loaves and you have breadcrumbs. Bread loaf would be like the championship, the Super Bowl, and breadcrumbs will have to do is the micro processes that gets there. When I worked with the Dallas Cowboys during the Jason Garrett era, when we went from Romo to Dak Prescott, one of the things that being, and I bring them up because I'm actually a huge 49ers fan, could care less about the Dallas Cowboys when it comes to a fan, but they are one of the best run private organizations that I was part of. And they preach and focus on this verbiage, which is focus on the breadcrumbs. Life's about the breadcrumbs. It's an athlete's about the breadcrumbs. They really talk about the bread loaves. They talk about the breadcrumbs of themselves as athletes. So we're going to talk about breadcrumbs. Breadcrumbs are these tiny, small habits. And so when we think about breadcrumbs of life, what is it for you? Figure what that is. But why are breadcrumbs so important? Here's why. Because confidence is manufactured. You got developed and created by behavior. And taking notes, write this down. Behavior is the predecessor of emotion. I don't like how I feel. I have a lot of performance anxiety. I have a lot of worry. Your behavior is a predecessor of emotion. How I behave, how I wake up in the morning and start my day, right? My winning day, my noon, am I making sure that my habits are reflecting my values, right? My beliefs is that if there's a certain emotion I'm not liking, let's look at our behaviors. What am I doing? My behaviors tells myself what to believe about myself. There's a direct impact. Your behaviors have a direct impact of your self-perception. So by changing your behaviors, you change your beliefs about yourself. That's the whole concept in which, um, in Exodus, there's a great verse in Exodus where Moses just praying and praying, and God comes in. He says, Moses, stop praying and go. Meaning, put your faith in action. I will meet you there. Don't wait till you feel right. Go and do it and fill the gap and recognize that I will be there for you and I'll make it happen. So what's the research on breadcrumbs and small habits? Well, Stanford's B.J. Fogg, Dr. Fogg, that's a behavioral model. He says what? Motivation is unreliable. Tiny habits are not. So he's like, okay, you got to focus on tiny habits. Make a list of your tiny habits. Where are the tiny habits you as an athlete? It could be the socks that you wear, tying your shoes. It could be the aspect of your pregame meal, the music you listen to. It could be the when you drink water, supplements that you take. It could be the thought that you think before you lift or go after a performance. Tiny habits are important. Dr. Fogg says focus on making habits easy and consistent, not hard. Easy. Get to that in a second. Simplicity beats motivation and sustaining change. So, if we're searching for the motion or the emotion of motivation, may wait for a long time. It's about tiny habits. It's about simplicity, small things that we could build up. It's a snowball effect. You start small and builds up. It's not about friction, it's about traction. It's about friction and traction, not about motivation. Meaning, he talks a lot about is as an athlete, why we need breadcrumbs, small habits, because we need friction throughout the morning. So we work this mantra out about win your day before noon, right? We front load your day with friction and traction, means small wins from doing your journaling, doing your quiet times, getting your food and that kind of stuff. Because it's about that, not about motivation. And he says that as an athlete, when you train, you want to be a candle. But when you're in performance mode, when it's game time, it's time to be a roaring fire. So in training, it's about consistency, be that flame. But when it's time to go, be that roaring fire that we all know we have. It's time to get intense. Mindset training shift. Here it is. Write this down. You don't need to go hard. You need to go again. So when it comes to training, go again and go again and go again. Some people go so hard that they burn out by the end of their workouts. Learn to say no. I'm going to approach workouts and approach my training around the mantra less about going hard and more about going again. Just go again, go again. It's the concept of telling the brain, I'm not going to stop, and telling the body that we keep going. Most athletes don't need motivation. They need momentum. Well, how do we get momentum, Joe? Through friction and traction. The breadcrumbs of life. That's how we do it. Reminder, what is the definition of momentum? Here it is. Momentum is self-trust and motion. When people lack a start, they have a failure to start, right? That means they're lacking momentum. So it could be around a goal, it could be around a new business, whatever it may be. And so something that we like to talk about is, okay, tell me about your self-trust. Tell me about how you trust yourself. Trust the fact is that your belief system, your values. Because if there's self-trust, you mean no way to put it. You hear in sports all the time, which is bet on yourself. If you're someone who can bet on yourself, then you'd be putting yourself in motion. You have momentum. So why have routines? Why do breadcrumbs? Why do this? Well, here's why: protection, efficiency, security, progress, and refueling. If you want to feel a sense of protection, like mental, emotional wellness. Well, having these routines and micro habits throughout your day that you can name and claim, well, guess what? It's going to make you feel more protected. Efficiency, what does that mean? Well, momentum builds energy buildup, so it gives you more energy to actually then do other things that are harder. Sense of security, it's about attachment. Consistency creates structure in life. Our brain likes structure. Our brain loves patterns. If you don't have small habits, breadcrumbs throughout the day that you do consistently on a daily basis, then it's really hard to build consistency. Progress. Well, obviously, if you're doing small stuff and conquering things, you start doing the bigger stuff. And once again, refueling gives you energy, is energy saving. Well, what's proof of this? Well, let's look at the British cycling team of the 2000s. The British cycling team was horrible in the early 2000s. No Olympic golds, no Tour de France. Their reputation was so bad that they couldn't get sponsorships. Equipment didn't even want to even associate with them. So in 2003 comes in Sir David Brailsford, and they call him the performance director. And he introduced something called the aggregation of marginal gains. Aggregation means he brought in tiny pieces to create gains. So he brought a bunch of breadcrumbs to create big gains for the team. If you improve everything just by 1%, he says, those small gains will add up to extraordinary things. So basically, it's find the breadcrumbs you can train and implement them. Well, how did he do this? Well, he didn't focus on the obvious stuff about training a cyclist. Instead, he made improvements everywhere else. Like what? He redesigned bike seats that were better for his athletes. They were more comfortable, more efficient. He used biofeedback sensors to monitor optimal exertion levels. He tested even the best massage gels or the best even, let's say even pain lotions for their body. He even taught his athletes the best way to wash their hands to avoid illness. They don't get sick. He brought in silk pillowcases, which now we all have, at least I do. They're pretty life-changing. He even tested out mattresses, what improves their sleep quality. He painted the inside of the truck that would bring or would move their bikes because he believed if there was dust in the truck, inside the truck, and the truck trailer puts dust in their brakes and it's going to slow them down. So he went into detail about figuring out, I want to make sure there's no dust in here. Let's paint this white. And he had this mindset of no change was too small, no habit was too tiny. He was taking this aspect of Dr. Fogg's model and says, let's go for it. If it could provide even a fraction of a percent improvement, it was implemented, he said. Well, what was the results? Well, 4 years later of doing this, between 2007, 10-year span, they won 178 world championships. They secured 66 Olympic and Paralympic gold medals, and they won 5 Tour de France titles in 6 years after never won one before. What's the lesson? Small habits equals big wins over time. Excellence is found in the details, the breadcrumbs. We're all about the big stuff. The breadcrumbs. Make a list of them. Smaller the better. Consistency compounds. So if that's the case, like, I had breadcrumbs, Joe, and I feel like they always die out. Why do habits die out? Well, here's the common reasons. Put them through these filters. Number one, are they motivation-based habits? Meaning, is it emotionally driven? Is it not coming from a place of values? If it aligns with your values, then it's not emotionally driven. Next, over-reliance on willpower. It's just to be like Nike, just do it, be gritty. Well, if you know anything about the research about grit that they did with Duckworth, right? Angela Duckworth, is she said, look, it's pretty simple. You can't just do it. That's not grit. Grit has to have passion. It's got to have fun. It's got to have a certain positive energy around it. If so, you cannot, if it's not present, you can't have any sense of grit. It's very hard to just do it without some type of willpower. Just doesn't win. Willpower plus a sense of fun, a sense of passion around it does win. No identity attached to it. What does that mean? Well, you're confusing me. There's confusion on your why. Why am I doing this? I don't know why I'm doing this. I don't know why I'm doing this again. I don't know why I'm blah, blah. Figure out your whys. Another reason why habits die. Habits disconnected from values. There's an incongruency of beliefs and behavior. Is my beliefs driving my behaviors or my behaviors driving my beliefs? It is more wise, as scripture says, let your beliefs drive your behavior. And lastly here, too big, too fast, too vague. Sometimes our habits die because they're too big. They're bread loaves. Maybe the fact is it's too fast. We got to slow down and maybe look back and say, what does a starting look like that's better? Or maybe they're too big. They're just not very detailed what we need to do. And so the intention is out the window. Research on this. Well, Laney Bassan. Laney Bassan was the guy that created performance psychology in the 1970s with the Olympic team, winter team. And so he's a notoriously known to do mindset work, visualization techniques to help out our Olympic athletes to beat the all-powerful Russians and in China. And he says, what decision fatigue kills consistency, kills habits. And so what does that mean? He says, well, hey, he says you got to think less and trust more. Trust more of your habits, trust more of your coaches, trust more of your abilities, trust more God, fill the gaps with trust. Overthinking is the number one cause of failure as an athlete, he said. You think yourself out of the good and into the bad more times than not. Meaning, sometimes we overthink habits or we think so much about that habit the night before or we focus so much on it that it actually causes us not to do it. And so, for example, my wife didn't work out this morning. She's like, I can't believe I slept in. I was supposed to work out. I told myself last night I was supposed to work out. And I said all day yesterday, I was like, tomorrow's the day. I didn't work out today. I'm going to work out tomorrow. And I said, babe, you literally thought yourself out of the good into the bad. You put so much pressure about having to wake up today that it creates this like fatigue. And so when you think like it's so much, you actually talk yourself out of the good and into the bad. And so don't tell yourself once, tomorrow I'm going to work out. I'm going to happen. That's it. One and done. Remember, if you're a parent, you have kids, one and done. It's a great way to parent. Keep telling them over and over again. They get exasperated. BJ Fox, so what? Habits fail when they require too much effort at the wrong time. So let's talk about this. So part of it is that maybe the effort of this habit is dying because it's too big of a habit. So what's the step before that? So for example, it's like, I want to go run today. That's my habit. I'm going to run every morning or run. Well, maybe that's too big of a habit. I'm not achieving it. So maybe I need to take the step back, which is like, okay, every day I'm going to wake up and put on my running shoes. And that's going to be the key. But we know that timing matters. This has actually been a big thing recently in the psychology world, which we're finding out that temporal landmarks helps launch habits. So what is the art of the start is you find temporal landmarks. What in God's green earth does that mean, Joe? Is that our brain likes it when we say we start on Monday. Our brain likes it when we say, on my birthday, I'm going to run 60 miles. My brain likes it that it's a new year. I'm going to start this. My brain likes it that, well, tomorrow, Bobby comes in town, so we're going to start this habit. Our brain likes to have the ability to name a moment basically in our timeline says it begins here. That's why I say you name it to claim it. And that's why we put adjectives or put words around a start. Neuropsychology translation, the brain protects energy. So if a habit feels like a threat or too much, it gets rejected. Meaning, do you actually believe it's actually good for you? Sometimes we have to tell ourselves, this is good for me. This is healthy for me. Me running every morning is healthy. Me putting on my running shoes every morning is good for me. This is going to be good for my body. It's going to be good for my family. It's going to be good for my mental health. Energy management comes from predictability. If you could predict your day and you could predict a lot what your day is going to look like, you will save a lot of energy. A lot of energy management is less about time management. It's more about energy. I mean, life's more about energy management than time management. Meaning, like the ability for you to predict your day is tremendous. So I put down here: predictability equals safety, and safety equals consistency. So a little, well-known research is the rat research. Here's 3 rats in the Skinner box. It's pretty simple how this works. Is they have a little lever, and they press down the lever. When they press down the lever, well, what happens is the guy to the left, when he presses down the lever, he gets a little, they call it cocaine water, which is sugar water for the rat. The rat's been starved for 3 days, so when the sugar water comes, they go nuts. But when he presses that lever down, it shocks his tail. His tail is a shock source. It shocks him. And it also shocks his friend to the right of him, the middle guy. The middle guy doesn't know why he's getting shocked, but he also gets no sugar water. So he's pressing the lever, nothing happens. So he's getting shocked and has no idea why. The guy to the far left gets shocked the same amount he does, but he knows why. Because I'm going to get some sugar water. And then we have the control rat to the right where nothing happens to him. He's just chilling there. So with this famous rat research, we then take the blood work of them. Of course, the control rat doesn't get shocked. He's just chilling there. He's fine. Then we started looking at the ones who are getting shocked. And so the left, right, and the middle, the left rat and the middle rat are both getting the same amount of shock, electricity shock. But yet, the one that's in control of the shock, his blood work and hormones came back normal, healthy. And then the middle ones, blood work came back and high cortisol, high stress, which then affects his testosterone. And so what's the point of this? It's not the level of shock that we take in our life or the level of stress we have in our life. It's about the amount of control that we have. And so it's about the concept of, it's not the amount of anxiety we have, it's about the amount of control. We all have stress. We all have anxiety. We all have a shock come into our lives. What is the level of control that you have over it? Your response. More importantly, your breadcrumbs. No matter if I have a high day, low day, no matter if I sleep this way or that way, I wake up every morning, I do this, I do that. Doesn't matter if I have a speaking engagement or it's the weekend. I'm going to do this every day. And even said here that the middle rat had increased ulcers. The poor guy was a worrywart. All right. What are some 4 mental benefits of consistency of having breadcrumbs in your life? Here they are. Number 1, creates action potential. What's the action potential? We've all seen neurons firing, and they go through and fire. Next one, fire. Well, the fire is like literally shooting out neurotransmitters down the neural pathways, right? And so when you have habits and breadcrumbs throughout your day, it creates more action potentials, meaning it lights up your brain. You feel happier, joyful, more dopamine, more serotonin. It is good. It's a healthy, it's an active brain. So it creates more activity in your brain, which is important. Why does this matter? Okay, the more you repeat it, the less mental effort it takes. Your brain literally opens up space for decision making, focus, and confidence under pressure everywhere else. So when you create routines, they become part of who you are, which then opens up energy elsewhere to be used when it comes to it. Hebb's Law. Practice pre-performance routines, aka we call it primers in sports psychology. So that's the same playlist you listen to. You eat the same food beforehand. It could be the same self-talk. It could be the journaling techniques you do, right? It creates a rhythm, right, into who you are. So when you do that, then what happens is that the primers then tells the body that we're now going to perform primers, small habits, breadcrumbs, things we do before we work out, before we, it positions us to perform. If we do that during time of training, as we do in competition, then it tells the body, okay, it's go time. So that's when people say, how do you turn butterflies in my stomach into soldiers? Well, if you read the book Mamba Mentality, Kobe talks about this. I have a lot of primers. I have a lot of pre-performance routines. If you're old like me, you probably remember good old Larry Bird would run around the Boston Garden for 45 minutes and jog. That was his priming. That was his pre-performance routine to tell his butterflies to turn into soldiers. Hebb's Law, visualization, visualize success, execution, brain fires if it's happening. Mean what? That if you are doing breadcrumbs, if you have these small habits, the benefit of it is that you start visualizing success, that you start seeing yourself being someone who is successful. To rewire negative beliefs through affirmations, it takes action. So if you have negative beliefs, affirmations, who you are, action I'll set that when it comes to it. And that's where it builds identity-based habits. I am someone who shows up every day. Second thing it does for our health is what builds resilience. If you're having a hard day, you stick with your breadcrumbs. And if you're under pressure, stick with your breadcrumbs. Third thing, it strengthens identity. It tells yourself, I'm someone who is more likely to be successful. I'm someone that is consistent as a person. It just builds an identity around micro successes. And lastly, here reduces cognitive load. Routines reduce decision fatigue and mental clutter. Our brain likes patterns, guys, and breadcrumbs creates patterns. And so we're therefore emotional. Well, here it is. Increases confidence, reduces anxiety. You want to reduce stress, get a cluster of small habits, aka routine, make it happen. The confidence, the power of completion. Number 3, regulates mood. Physical training releases endorphins and stabilizes cortisol levels. So if you have breadcrumbs around physical routine, like you guys all do, good. Number 4, builds self-worth. Consistency reinforces that I have value as a person. 5 ways to build consistency in life and training. Like, how do I build consistency in my life? How do I build these breadcrumbs every day? Number one, clarity over chaos, or no way put it as clarity over clever. What does that mean? Be 100% clear why this breadcrumb is necessary before you do it. Words give power to behaviors. The famous book Influence, The Psychology of Influence by ASU professor. He did the research of sales. How do I convince someone to do something? How do I convince someone to buy something? One simple word, because. I am waking up every day and putting on my running shoes because I am more likely to run and be healthy and work out my heart. I am waking up every day and putting on my running shoes because heart disease runs in my family and I don't want to die at age 60. Win your because. Clarity over clever. Number two, small wins, big shifts. That's how you build consistency, right? What does that mean? Well, you're not going to like this, but I'm going to tell you. Some of us have to lower the bar. Doesn't mean you're lowering your standard. Lower the bar and raise your standard. Stewardship. Meaning, maybe we're starting too big. What do I need to do small? Instead of me waking up and telling myself I need to run 7 miles, 10 miles, I'm going to first wake up and put on my shoes. Can I do that and do it with my socks fitting perfectly, with my shoes tied correctly, with the tightness I like? I'm lowering the bar and raising the standard for that simple thing. So it's like a stewardship model. Number three, by setting systems. What's my favorite system? When you're dead by noon. If you front load your day by noon, based on how your brain works, 2 o'clock, 2:30 is when your brain starts getting cold again, and good luck trying to do hard stuff after that time. Unless you're like really young, 15, 16, 17, 18, because your melatonin is released a lot later. So just front load your day. Create a system. I don't know a system. Ask your coach. What's the best way to approach this? Do this. Systems make discipline easier than motivation. It's the joke, but yet it works so well in the NFL. Be a systems quarterback, meaning find a great coach, a great GM, a great offensive coordinator, and a great owner, and you're more likely to win. They have great systems. Number four, accountability. Can't do this alone, guys. It's synergy. We talked about in one of the groups last year or beginning this year of the concept of the only way goals are actually met is when you talk about it. All right, so talk about it. Tell someone, here's what I'm going to do. Here's what I'm trying to do. Don't do it alone. And lastly, grace and grit, meaning what? Have the mindset of progress isn't perfection. It is consistent bounce back ability. What do you mean? Do it again. What do you mean do it again? Yeah, but I didn't work out today. Tomorrow you will do it again. Progress doesn't always look like growth, guys. And some of us are like, I'm not growing. You know, you could progress and take 2 steps backwards. That could be progress. And then take 5 steps forward. Some of us have to do that. Like, let me, I'm lowering the bar. Okay, maybe this habit's dying. And so let me do the habit before that and master that to get to the habit I really want to master. Okay, then do it. You know, find grit. Well, how do you find grit? You need to have passion and you have to make it fun, enjoyable. You ever been around people who are a lot of fun? You want to see them all the time. You always say yes to them for dinner. And then you have people who are not fun. And they ask you for dinner. You're like, I don't know. I don't want, I just be the longest 3 hours of my life, right? It's easier to get to 3 hours of dinner if the person's fun. That's why no one ever cancels dinner with me because they know I'm a lot of fun, people. Here's the key. Routine is a contract between your future self and your current discipline. Breadcrumbs and habits is a contract between your future self, who I want to be, how I visualize myself to be, and your current discipline. If there's incongruency between your future self and your current discipline, that's an I issue. That's an I issue. I can't fix that. Your coach can't fix that. It's about you and your commitment to yourself. You got to figure that out. I love this analogy. One dropped into 1,000 did. You want to break through? You want to break a dam that's really hard, very difficult. Consistency over perfection, people. That's what's about. Final thoughts. CrossFit isn't just about who can suffer the most. A lot of people are like, it's suffering's hard. It's hard workouts. Oh, it's not about that. It's about who can optimize the most. It's about energy management. It's about doing it again and doing it again and doing it again. And so, but that is suffering. I get it. But it's about the aspect who can position themselves well and correctly. Always end of the story. Here's my story. Here it is. The good old Mayan pyramid in Mexico. Famous story. Used to take about almost 6 hours to get to it. And so you had a guide. You paid the guide. The guide will take you around a bunch of switchbacks and mountains to actually get to it. And when you got to it, the people just loved it. They took pictures. They never trashed it. They never took a step on it. They just respected it well. Well, the Mexican government came in and said, okay, well, take 6 hours there, take 6 hours to get back. We really, I bet we can make a lot of money off of this if we just drill a tunnel straight through the mountain and go straight to it. And that's going to take about 45 minutes to get to it. And if so, we can then charge people, get more people in, right? So like basically it makes more money for them. So they did. And the byproduct of it is now the guide was taking a lot of people, and there was less friction, there was less challenge, there was less, difficulty getting to it. And the byproduct of it was they found out was when it only took 45 minutes to get there, the tourists would eat lunch there, leave their trash behind. They started to walk on it. They started to they would start touching it. They were not supposed to. They basically didn't see it as being sacred because the fact that it was easy to get to. And so they had an issue. The ruin was getting ruined. And they're like, what do we do? And so they decided to do was to close down the tunnel. And so they closed it up. And they said, if you want to get to the Mayan pyramid, you have to take the 6-hour hike to it. And human nature is such, right? Where, we seem to appreciate things, love things, enjoy things, respect things, find beauty in things. When there's a little bit of friction, difficulty, when challenges are met and completed, when we are able to suffer for it. And when we don't, we take shortcuts like the tunnel. We don't appreciate where we've gone and where we've been. And so I think this year, as we get into the open on all the workouts, is realize this is you doing the 6-hour hike to where we're trying to get to, which is something we find very sacred, which is completion and finishing training and finishing right and going again and going again and going again. And that's where the beauty is. I know what you're thinking, Joe, your voice is beautiful. I love the sound of it. Well, great. We have a podcast, my wife and I do, the Reset Podcast. We have a couple seasons out there. Check it out, guys. Check it out. If you're married, we just started a new passion project called Wreck Your Marriage, REC, Rec, recreational, working out with your spouse, doing fun stuff with your spouse. TikTok, Instagram, check it out. Wreck Your Marriage. You'll see my beautiful face on there. Boy, you're like, boy, Joe, you really sparked some stuff in me. I have questions for you. I'm not live. So what do? Text me. Hey, I'm Bobby. I'm from the group. Whatever you want to ask. Text me. I'm good at texting. I love texting. That's my number. It's my personal number. It's the only number I got. Hit me up. I'm going to check out our website. There it is. Scan the little code or go to our website, Reset Performance Mindset, RPM. We're on the gram, we're on the TikTok like everyone is these days. Feel free to check it out if you're looking for some performance coaching, either for performance-wise, physically, or just even emotional-wise. I'm here too. That's what I do for a living. I work with athletes and help them with their businesses, to their families, to their workouts, whatever it may be. I am here for all things mindset around it. So thank you for coming, and we'll see if there's anyone live that has any questions or anything like that. If not, it's just me and Jake here having the best time of our life, my friend.
That's
and
right.
my background's so much better than yours.
It really is. Stupid workouts. What, Joe, would you say Wreck Your Marriage is on what? On the Reset Podcast or its own?
No, it hasn't come out the podcast yet. We're all social media right now. So Instagram and TikTok, YouTube channel, and Facebook. We have about 3 videos a day piped in for the next 90 days already set up.
Just go to Reset. Where do you go on YouTube?
YouTube is Wreck Your Marriage, REC. like recreational, wreck your marriage. We have no one else has taken our name, so it's there. And you'll see my great smile with my wife with my
13th
hands out
subscriber.
like this.
13th subscriber. I'm there.
Number 13, you're lucky 13. We're there. Finally. 1 week into the Passion Project, 13 subs. I'm all in.
Double digits. There we go. Joe, I got, I guess, a couple questions. That was really good. I love Atomic Habits. I think a lot of it, some of it at least, was from that, especially the bike stuff.
100%. 100%.
So good. The best nonfiction book ever written, in my opinion, other than the Bible. What you said this, I'm sure. Just normal. I mean, it could be CrossFitters or whatever. Just the average person. I think me too included screws up a lot of those. But what's maybe the most common gap or point at which the habit breaks down or the consistency fails of the things you listed out? There's multiple places. Obviously, you got to have like your why and know what you're doing. But what like thing? Maybe it was the small breadcrumb. What's the most common missing breadcrumb you see? When people fix that, the rest almost falls into place, or they get the momentum to fix the others.
So I'll give a tag or give a shout out for Angela Duckworth. Now is on Instagram. So she is the doctor at PhD that does all the research around what you just said, right? So all this stuff for Atomic Habits is really her research. And she just came out with a great video saying, just found out more research is when does habits break down? When does motivation stop? And when do people stop doing? And she says two emotions. Number one is the motion of burnout, which is virtually now considered to be emotion. It wasn't an emotion until recently, guys. Number two is lack of joy. And so long as there's joy, the behavior continues about that behavior. Or if there's burnout, it's impossible for a person to grit their way out of it. And so the whole lie about grit and sticking to habits that, for long term is we thought it's just a matter of it's going to be mental toughness. Just do it, just do it, just do it. No, is we found it has to do the aspect of having a joy or passion around it and or the elimination of feeling burnout as a person. So that's why we talk about is margin. Do you have enough margin to work with? And people put too much of a time emphasis on a habit. And it's like, oh, I can't work out now. It's like my wife this morning. It's 7 o'clock. I was supposed to work out before 7. No, you don't. You can work out at noon. No, I can't. So then there's this tying in with the aspect of time, not enough margin. And so then the time has passed. You hear that people, I can't. And so does a habit have to be done the same time every day for it to be a habit? Not all. Not all. And sometimes we had to unlearn for us to progress and keep things long term. But to go with the original aspect of your question is a lot of habits break down because we either stop finding joy around it. We believe in it. It's part of our core value. There's not fun around it. So what do we do? Well, some examples are some people, is my wife, she'd be like, I bought a new outfit to wear tomorrow for working out. And she'll wake up and wear the outfit. It brought joy. Some people, they buy a new tracker, the ring, this, and there we go. Some people they bring in some to do that with them. Or Atomic Habits says when that happens is you need to insert stacking habits. So for example, I don't journal anymore, but I'm going to tell myself I'm not allowed to have my coffee that I love every day unless I journal with it. So you start stacking habits for it. The why might not be important as much as what I need to do if I want to continue the habit. I'm not doing it. So then it's like, do I inherit something that creates joy? Do I create the synergy of someone else? Or do I stack habits, bring something that I naturally do every day that I love and say, I can't do this unless I am doing that. So for example, this past year, I didn't work. I'm not allowed to listen to any podcasts. I love my podcasts. I'm not listening to podcasts unless I'm working out in my garage. So then I'm like, man, I was doing more days than not every week. Now I'm into the running world, right? But it's a little too cold out for me. So I realized like it's just too cold for me to run. Like I can't run with pants. It's too cold. So once it starts warming up, then I'm gonna say I can't listen to podcasts unless I run. It's a habit I want. But yeah, I don't find much joy in it. But I will find joy because I find joy in the podcast, and just so happens I'm running as I listen to my podcast. Which Mayhem's Performance Athletes, my favorite podcast. Yeah, I never get invited. I never get invited on.
Insulting. What the heck? I invited you. They didn't even invite you. All right, then this is what I think about this a lot. So we're very fortunate in our day and age. You can possibly find work in a field that you're passionate about. You still got to work really hard and grind to get to it. But you and I are great examples. We're doing things we love and a job that we we're super fortunate to have, and like didn't exist, whatever, 10 years ago, even 6 years ago. But
Good point.
what do you do? Because most of the world in history worked in a farmer factory or jobs you just didn't like. You're not super passionate about the grunt work, whatever it is, but you got to provide for your family, you got to grind. So then what do they do when there's not a real solution other than just do your job, provide for your family, and like you just don't, you kind of hate it probably. You do not enjoy going to work. You don't enjoy the task, but you got to do it.
But we found out is that tasks that involved or meet primary reinforcers in life. So a primary reinforcer is going to be water, shelter, food, right? Providing for your family is what we discussed about when it comes to like habits is thrown out the window because there's a survival aspect to primary reinforcers. When it comes to secondary reinforcers, which is the next category, which is like we can live without it, but we want it, right? Then that is what we talked about really matters. But the stuff like those who work in the coal mines and the factories or they're farmers, they're working their hands, and I mean that blue collar difficulty that's out there because it meets a primary reinforcer need in their life, then we see that men are more willing to do it, right? And so that is a key variable that we need to understand is that if there is such a need of survival, then we will be willing to storm the beaches, would be willing to work the 14-hour days in the coal mines because the why is greater than what I'm doing. And so when the why is greater than what I am doing, the why is, in that case is, then that's what's going on, right?
Anything they can do that makes sense. And blue collar is way harder. It still applies to white collar if you hate your office job. Like,
Well, but you think about like you read not Yalom. Yalom is the other guy. Frankel's Man's Search of Meaning, right? The famous like thingy book, right? So you kind of read in the beginning where they talk about like it's really sad where they witness like they're literally taking babies and throwing them up and shooting the Nazis. Like it's just like he's just trying to give us this picture of just the disgusting stuff that's happening. And then he comes into his concentration camp, right? And kind of brushes over it a little bit, but it's actually I think the most important part of the book, which is men come in, we have the same food that he talks about. We sleep the same in the same area and we do the same work. And yet some of us live for 6 years in the camp and some of us die after 6 weeks. And that's when he started. Remember, he created existentialism. He was the godfather of existentialism as a psychologist, psychiatrist. So he's like, what's happening? So he started kind of doing his own little studies in the concentration camp. And this is the concept of it's like this primary reinforcer is so important. The primary reinforcer is the concept, in this case, he's like, guys came in and he said, they killed my wife, killed my kids, I had nothing to live for. They died in 6 weeks. Like, why would I work hard here? I'm not working hard for anyone. But those who are like come in and said, I don't know. Last time I saw my kids and my wife are still alive. I'm going to work my butt off. So one day I could kiss my wife and hold my kids again. So then he's like the power of hope. But what's happening there is there's this primary reinforcer that they're working their ass off in the camps to stay alive, knowing one day I'm going to get what I want, which is be with my family again. Sense of belonging, relationships, attachment is a primary, not secondary. 1970s, the famous, if you took Psych 101 at your college, they talked about Anna. Anna was this kid that was severely neglected. They found her in an attic all by herself. Parents refused. They just gave her food, never talked to her, never gave her a name. She barely spoke. And they never had a connection, sense of belonging, no love for her. They found her. Long story short, she died. But when they found her, they died and while she was in custody with them just because she just was so malnourished. But yet she's eating food and she's eating water. So it's like, okay, she's getting primary stuff. But that's when they realized part of the primary reinforcers in life is love, it's attachment. And so it's the concept of the Russian orphanage syndrome. If you adopt a kid from Russia, and now it's the same thing with China, now they're realizing is these kids that are in these orphanages that are making money off of Americans, spending 30 grand to adopt them, is that these kids, these babies are just being neglected. They're just being fed, change the diapers and nothing else. They're just not being held and just crying. And they have a lot of tremendous neurological, emotional issues because of just the lack of attachment at a young age. And so it's primary. So going back to trying to get to is like there's certain aspects that are very difficult for us to do, but we will do it even though there's burnout and there's no joy. But yet it, especially for men who are providers, I will do this because it's the betterment for my family. It's kind of Ephesians 5, sacrificial love. You know,
Yeah.
I got to take off. I'm a minute late to my person
Yeah,
who's
Joe.
probably missing me. So I got to go. Guys, you're the best. Be good. Peace.